Я просто жінка, грішна і свята, слабка і сильна, сіра і яскрава. Я просто жінка, просто жінка.
Давай, давай! Опустили колоду на ліве плече! Прямо, прямо йдемо! Прямо! Прямо! Рухаємося! Бігом, 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 бігаємо тушками! Отлично! Шампунчик всі взяли з собою!
Знаем!
Взяли! На плече і за мною рухаємо!
В медичному пункті ви не були.
Shalom, Israel. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakal Quadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and peace and blessings with all sincerity to the hopeful elect. It's Zachariah coming at you with another lesson, and Lord's willing, it be edifying. So I have a couple articles and a video from Redacted that I want to go into, and I think I'm going to entitle this lesson something along the lines of your mouth has wrote checks that your ass can't cash. All right, and that's going into these women, all right, and this feminist movement and agenda. Okay, and with the clip that I played prior, it's a real reality setting in to these women that it's a real possibility that they could really end up in this third world's war on the front line. All right. Reality is setting in. You see these Ukrainian women, training, looking all out of place, because a battlefield is no place for a woman. But yet, Esau Edom has tricked these women through feminism, first off, to come back into the workforce when they had a sweet deal back in the day of being stay-at-home mothers and taking care of their kids and making sure their kids were properly taken care of and educated, to help with their homework. They were there to clean the house. They were there to make sure everything at home was in order, which led to a better society. But Esau tricked them into coming into the workforce and allowing their kids to be raised by strangers, man. And now you dumb women are fighting in wars. It makes no sense whatsoever. But anyway, read a little bit of this article, It reads, women in the military, why can't we serve on the front lines? Right. Who in their right mind would want to serve on the front lines in any branch of the military? After watching documentaries on World War I, World War II, and different types of wars, and even watching the mayhem and carnage caused in these movies. Hey, but what? Your mouth has wrote checks that your ass can't cash. The Defense Department, Salakia, let me scroll down. I just want this part. Gender equality, job equality. Most of the women we spoke with strongly believe that the military should be like any other job. All opportunities should be open to both men and women. To keep someone out of something or restrict them when they're capable still doesn't make sense to me, explains Air Force Captain Kristen Frank. Banning women from certain jobs, she says, is as chaotic, Salakia, is as archaic as the don't ask, don't tell policy. Critics, of course, have expressed concerns about women being able to do the job, particularly for frontline positions. And that's the truth, because whether people believe it or not, men are stronger than women. Men are better suited physically, mentally for war on the battlefield. Okay? It's just that simple. The woman is the weaker vessel. All right? And none of these women on an equal playing field can pass any of these requirement tests in the military that men have to, the standards that men have to pass or endure. They lower the standards in all categories for women, whether it's pull-ups, push-ups, all the way across the board. Okay? Women are not equal to men. But like I said, your mouth has wrote checks that your ass can't cash. So let's get this next one. This is Reuters from 2013. It reads, U.S. to lift ban on women in frontline combat. The U.S. military will formally end its ban on women serving in frontline combat roles, officials said on Wednesday, in a move that could open thousands of fighting jobs to female service members. The move knocks down another society barrier after the Pentagon scraps its Don't Ask, Don't Tell ban in 2011 on gays and lesbians serving openly in the military. The decision by outgoing Defense Secretary Leon Panetta is expected to be formally announced on Thursday and comes after 11 years of non-stop war that has seen dozens of women killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. They have represented around 2% of the casualties of those unpopular, costly wars, and some 12% of those deployed for the war efforts, in which there were often no clearly defined front lines, and where deadly guerrilla tactics have included roadside bombs that kill and maim indiscriminately. Okay? So as of 2013, women have been allowed to fight on the front lines, and I think it officially, everything was taken care of officially as far as legislation in 2016. So, okay, women can fight on the front lines. Now, why did I say it's a real possibility that we're going to see women on the front lines? Women, homosexuals, transformers, okay, are going to be on the front line as well, okay, because they need bodies. They need bodies. The military needs bodies, all right? So, let's play this clip from Redacted.
Something else. Putin, who is an economist, remember the man has a doctorate in economics. he's been watching this, and I think he's been betting heavily that not only America's economy or financial system is going to go into crisis, but I think he's expecting the Europeans to simply slide into recession or depression or worse, and that will bring an end to this conflict, at which point in time he can advance without much opposition. I mean, we already know the Ukrainians have no more manpower, per se. I mean, they've turned to the European Union, they've turned to the various governments in NATO and said, we want you to repatriate military-age males from all over your countries back to the Ukraine so that we can feed them into the meat grinder and kill them as well. I don't know how that's going to turn out. I was really depressed when I discovered that the Irish Republic had agreed to do it. But I think in Poland and other countries, there's a reluctance to do that because they feel they may face armed opposition inside their own countries from Ukrainians that say, no, I'm not going back. I'm not prepared to die. So I think we've already hit the end game. The question is, as you put it, what are we going to do? And Nuland and Blinken apparently flew off recently and said, oh, let's freeze the conflict. Well, that's a non-starter. The Russians have been telling us for months, forget it. They're not going to do that.
What does that mean, freeze the conflict? What does that entail?
Well, I think what they believe it entails is something like a divided Korea, that you come to some sort of agreement along the line of contact and you say, we'll stay on this side, you stay on that side. They see it in the West, particularly in Washington, as a face-saving measure. The Russians aren't going to do it. What the Russians will not accept is any Ukrainian state of any kind that is aligned with NATO. Number one, can't happen. Right. Otherwise, they fought this war for no purpose. Remember, this is all about the existential threat that we present inside Ukraine to Russia. So that's out of the question. And the issue is, how do you turn to the Russians if you're in Washington, in front of the American people and in front of your allies and say, look, we were wrong. You aren't weak. And we've got serious problems at home. We've got to pack it in, go home and take care of our own problems. Well, in their minds, they've just been defeated. They've admitted that they have to surrender and walk away. So in Washington, to get back to your original question, what are you going to do? You just double down and continue to do the stupid things that have failed utterly to produce any success. So send them more ATACMS missiles, send them German Taurus missiles, send whatever somebody else has got out there, especially since you know they don't have any troops to speak of. So send them long-range attack weapons that only require a few trained people, and then let them launch them to their heart's content at the Russians. And of course, again, they're going to attack Russian civilians in Russian towns and cities. We know that. They've done that before. This is insane. This is crazy, but that's where we are.
The real winner in the AI.
Perfect timing, stupid commercial. So, as you can see, man, they're going to continue to throw bodies at this war, okay? We've said it plenty of times. Esau Edom has perfected the sword. He's a master at killing, okay? And bodies are dropping by the thousands, the tens of thousands, all right? So let's get into the scriptures real quick. It says, for many of them that dwell, Salakia, 2 Esdras 16 and 22, for many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. For the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. There shall be no man left to till the earth, and to sow it. The trees shall give fruit, and who shall gather them? The grapes shall ripen, and who shall tread them? For all places shall be desolate of men, so that one man shall desire to see another and to hear his voice. Right. And how and how are all these men that that the scriptures are speaking of, how are they going to just randomly disappear? Where are all the men going to be? Okay? They're going to be dead, man, because they're going to get shipped over, drafted to this third world war. And exactly what's happening in Ukraine, tens of hundreds of thousands of men dying in short periods of time, is going to continue to happen. All right? This is the New York Times. It reads, troop deaths and injuries in Ukraine war near 500,000, U.S. officials say. Let's get a little bit of this. The total number of Ukrainian and Russian troops killed or wounded since the war in Ukraine began 18 months ago is nearing 500,000, U.S. officials said. Hey, and they're going to deflate the numbers to make it seem as if Ukraine has a chance at winning this war. Okay, but it's more than this. You best believe it. It says U.S. officials said a staggering toll as Russian assaults its next door neighbor and tries to seize more territory. The officials cautioned that casualty figures remain difficult to estimate because Moscow is believed to routinely undercut its war dead and injured, and Kyiv does not disclose official figures, but they said the slaughter intensified this year in eastern Ukraine and has continued at a steady clip as a nearly 3-month-old counteroffensive drags on. Russian military casualties. Matter of fact, okay, I'm going to play. Matter of fact, it talks about this counteroffensive. Okay, this 3 months counteroffensive drags on. Let's go back to this video because the general speaks about it. Hold on.
Race won't be NVIDIA, Google, or
Slovakia.
Microsoft. No.
I'll get you out of here on this, Colonel, which is, again, this 45 days or so before the bad weather sets in. What do you make of Mark Milley's comments? Well, time is running out for Ukraine's vaunted counteroffensive. Those are the words of General Mark Milley, as President Zelensky says Russia has basically stopped anything that NATO has been throwing at them, sort of admitting really that they really haven't made much of an advancement at all. In other words, his counteroffensive has been a total failure. That's, you don't need to mince words about it. Let's bring in Colonel Douglas Macgregor to get some analysis on this. And Colonel, good to see you. Putin says today, in this kind of big speech that everyone's talking about, that Ukraine has lost 71,000 soldiers during this counteroffensive that achieved nothing. What do you make of that? 71,000 soldiers killed just during the counteroffensive on the Ukrainian side. Do those numbers sound accurate to you?
Well, they're certainly plausible because about 4 weeks ago, literally a month ago, we counted over 60,000 dead. And that's based on satellite photography, looking at bodies lying on the ground, looking at cemeteries that are filling up, and also receiving reports from on the ground inside Ukraine about the masses of dead and horribly wounded people. So I think it's plausible. Can I confirm it? I can't. But I would say that the Russians have been far, far closer to the truth when they report casualties than the Ukrainians have.
General Mark Milley is saying that this time is running out here. He basically says that we've seen some gains, some good progress here. And he said, I said at the very beginning of this that this was going to be long, slow, hard, high casualty producing. That's exactly what it is. But he thinks that there's confidence. He has a lot of confidence that Ukraine is going to break through in the next 45 days or so before the bad weather sets in. What do you make of Mark Milley's comments?
Well, setting aside whether or not anybody wants to listen to Mark Milley, I haven't heard the truth from that man's mouth. He questions nothing and supports the status quo. 1,000, I don't know. It doesn't make any difference. The equipment losses are horrendous. And all of the counteroffensive has been a catastrophe. Whether it's 71,000 or 69,000, I don't know. It doesn't make any difference. The equipment losses are horrendous. And all of this is for various reasons. Number one, Ukrainian forces are trained to fight like NATO. NATO, and especially the United States Armed Forces, are organized to refight some version of World War II. And we're up against a 21st century military establishment, which is organized very differently. And no one has been willing to accept this reality. And that's the biggest problem. Right now, you have persistent surveillance all over Ukraine, from space-based assets down to terrestrial assets that allow the Russians, through their intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance assets, to see everything in Ukraine all of the time. We have not disrupted their satellite-based capabilities for the simple reason that if we do that, they will destroy ours. We don't want to lose ours. So it's been a game. We try to race information to the Ukrainians as quickly as possible that they can exploit, but they're not organized to exploit it. The Russians are simply organized in a way that maximizes the value of their strike assets. Strike assets, artillery, rockets, missiles, drones, you name it. And these are very plentiful on the Russian side. The Russians have always appreciated the criticality of maintaining large quantities of strike weapons. They've got them in practically limitless numbers. You link those to all of these overhead surveillance capabilities, and then you have an automatic warfare capability. Something moves towards your lines, something seems to be threatening. A group of Ukrainians assemble, they bring in additional equipment, it's all detected, it's targeted, and then at a time and a place that is convenient for the Russians, they are destroyed. We failed to come to terms with this reality. People say, well, this is starting to look like World War I. Well, it's much worse than World War I. In World War I, people still didn't know what was happening behind the other person's trench line. Today, the Russians know exactly what's going on in Ukraine. And they've decided to simply sit and let the Ukrainians impale themselves. The question is, how much longer do they sit? And I can tell you there are large numbers of senior officers.
Okay. So back to this, a little bit of this article, because, it was spoken on the counteroffensive, and I just wanted y'all to hear it. They're just throwing bodies at this thing, fighting this war in a archaic, old school manner and fashion, and bodies are just hitting the floor. Okay, so continuing on, it says Russia's military casualties, the officials said, are approaching 300,000. The number includes as many as 120,000 deaths and 170 to 180,000 injured troops. The Russian numbers dwarf the Ukrainian figures, which the officials put at close to 70,000 killed and 100,000 to 120,000 wounded. But Russians outnumber Ukrainians on the battlefield almost 3-1, and Russia has a large population from which to replenish its ranks. So anyway, long story short, man, Ukraine has no chance in winning this war. So it's only a matter of time before NATO and America, Babylon the Great, has to get involved to escalate this war. Okay? So best believe, you know, these nations are going to not only implement drafts, but have women and whatever type of bodies they can to throw on the front line. All right? So, hey, this is what you women have to look forward to also. Okay? And there's worse things than being a man being drafted to another country to go on the front lines to fight war. And that's being a woman in that scenario. Okay? So back to the scriptures. I'm going to read 2nd Esdras 16 and 26 again. It says, "The grapes shall ripen, and who shall tread them? For all places shall be desolate of men, so that one man shall desire to see another and to hear his voice." All right, and let's scroll down. We'll jump down to 31. It says, "Even so, in those days there shall be 3 or 4 left by them that search their houses with the sword. And the earth shall be laid waste, and the fields thereof shall wax old, and her ways and all her paths shall grow full of thorns, because no man shall travel through them." Right. There's not going to be any men around, okay, to do all the dirty jobs, okay, that you women don't want to do. All the jobs that keep society, okay, running smoothly, okay? Whether it's men out in the middle of the ocean working on oil, what do they call them, oil tankers or oil ridges, okay? Whether it's, you know, any of these jobs, man, that you women don't want to do, that you women speak for equality, okay? But you're talking about those easy cushion jobs, like being a CEO of some Fortune 500 company. You want those positions. You don't want to be an electrician, a plumber, a garbage man, things that really make this world, a bricklayer, run. Okay? So anyway, it says, continuing on, 33, it says, "The virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers." Right. Where did all the men go? All right. 34. "In the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine." All right. All these things that are happening, man, the Lord, has written in these holy scriptures, and he has his prophets on the highways and byways prophesying, meaning to say before, tell you these things, that's going to happen before they happen, to warn you, to repent. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. All right. Now let's get a little bit more of this clip. All right. Show you how dirty Esau Edom is, man. Let's get it right about here.
Let's have pressure on him. I can't advise him. And I imagine there are a lot of people that say, well, I'd like Putin to do X, but he's done pretty well thus far. And so I probably want to shut up and color until something goes horribly wrong, but I don't think it will.
I said I was going to get you out of here on that last question, but I will on this one. You see Europe now getting letters from the Ukrainian government or people in different European countries now, as you mentioned, parts of Ireland, of course. We've seen this, I think, now in Italy, and there's other countries that, of course, are also stepping up saying they're going to repatriate these Ukrainians who have sought refuge there, send them back to the meat grinder. Do you think, now remember, the United States had given preferential treatment to Ukrainian refugees coming across the border. In fact, we know firsthand, in fact, that there were people that were waiting to move into the United States, were sitting, waiting, and Ukrainians got front of the line status to be able to come into the United States. Do you think there's a chance in hell that the United States would repatriate, send these young Ukrainian men back to Ukraine to fight?
I think it's unlikely. I mean, let's be frank, we can't even enforce our own laws. We aren't defending our own borders. We are not expelling illegals. We're not taking action against hardened criminals that are raping and murdering in our major cities. So what are we going to do? I think we're going to do exactly what the Biden administration has done, nothing. So I don't see us playing in this. Now, the Europeans have got to ask themselves whether or not they want to be war criminals, because they're essentially rounding up people and sending them back to die. This has no chance of success, and that's the point in the article. We are organized for the past. This is a different form of warfare.
So, hey, so even Ukrainian men that slipped out the country and got refuge in these different different countries, they're calling them back, okay, to pick up arms, man. All right, this man, listen, man, this is beautiful, man. This place is through. All right, this America Babylon the Great is through. This Third World War is a brewing, and things are really about to get ugly, man. All right, and all the pride that you women have, and the Lord is finna set everything straight. Okay, you women are about to be humble. You are about to be really about to be humble. All right. So anyway, Lord's willing, this was edifying. Shalom, Israel.